Tonight, you'll be dozing off from the backseat of your parents' car, softly cradled by the gentle hum of the engine as it travels homeward late at night along a country highway. Imagine you are sitting in the back seat with your head nestled into a cozy pillow propped against the window. You are gazing out at the moonlit countryside, and on your face is a soft and secret smile. It's late Friday night, after playing in the pep band at your brother's basketball game far from home. Your kid's sister has nodded off already. She's laying across the wide seat with her head resting softly in your lap. You are tired too after a long week of high school and homework, but you're also full of wonder, and that smile on your face is perfectly concealed in the shadows, only illuminated sporadically by the flickering flashes of light cast from the headlights of oncoming cars. You rest your forehead against the cool glass of the window. Every now and then, a distant farmhouse light appears, towering like a lighthouse in the dark, casting bright beams across the endless, waterless ocean of a prairie. Now, slowly we'll begin to relax. First, with eyes closed, just become aware of your breathing, feeling your chest gently rise and fall again. Next, we'll try taking a few deeper breaths, filling our lungs with air, holding it, and then gently exhaling and letting it all go. Ready? Inhale deeply, hold for 3, 2, 1, and then exhale. One more time. Breathe in deeply, hold for 3, 2, 1, and then exhale. And try thinking to yourself, as I sit here in the back seat, I can feel gravity's pull tugging me gently back towards Earth. With every exhale, I can feel the weight of the day slipping away. I can feel my feet, my ankles, calves, knees, and my legs, each part of me relaxing deeper and becoming heavier and more relaxed. Up in the front seat, your parents recap and relive the big game. They talk of jump shots and fouls, rebounds and timeouts. You close your eyes, but when you picture the crowded gymnasium, you remember something much sweeter than basketball. Your mind drifts back, but now the memory of the night is soothing and hypnotic, somehow quieter, as if it all played out in slow motion. Sneakers squeaking on the hardwood floor, cheers blasting out from spirit sections choreographed by cheerleaders and mascots. The aroma of popcorn and hot dogs snaking its way from concessions all the way through the hot air, above the teams and players and referees, and then high into the packed stands where you and the band played and cheered and sang. You quietly reflect on how unexpected your first love appeared in your young life. It feels as if the universe brought it to you slowly, and yet, in the end, also unexpectedly in a flash. Now let's try taking a few more deep breaths. Ready? Breathe in deeply. Hold for 3, 2, 1, and then exhale. Try continuing on your own, and while doing this, try thinking to yourself, as I sit here, my whole body feels heavy and relaxed. With every exhale, I can feel gravity pulling me back towards Earth gently. I can feel my head, my shoulders, my neck becoming relaxed and at ease. And my legs are heavy and at peace with gravity's pull. Now my whole body, my legs and feet, my arms and hands, my torso, my head and neck and shoulders, my whole body is completely at peace, relaxed, and at ease. For weeks and weeks at band practice and at games, you had played right there next to each other, bumping elbows, close enough to catch quick flashes of fragrances, close enough for smiles, quick glances, silly and innocent flirtations without considering really when and where or if you might actually ever kiss. And then, unexpectedly, tonight, it just happened. while the whole gymnasium was on its feet, the whole world preoccupied with some monumental moment of a basketball game. It just happened right there in the minuscule universe between the two of you. When you think about it now, falling in love was a lot like those farmhouse lights out there in the darkness. Everything approached so slowly at first, off in the distance, hardly moving at all. And then, love gained momentum and approached you carefully and timidly, getting closer and closer, and before you knew it, before you both knew it, true love had rushed up on you in a heartbeat, irresistible and suddenly undeniable. You smile now, thinking how you had always imagined your first kiss would happen somewhere private and hidden, and yet, in the end, yours was out in the open and in front of hundreds of people who never even saw it. As your parents dial in the AM radio, you finally close your eyes and lean back. Tonight's reading from the Journal of the First Voyage of Columbus begins with Monday, the 12th of November, and continues through Monday, the 3rd of December, 1492. We depart the Rio de Maris before dawn for the oft-mentioned Babeque, naming the Rio del Sol along Cuba's coast and keeping to sea to save time. Threading high islets, we enter a deep haven, later called Puerto del Príncipe, and set a cross. Contrary winds then carry us along the Mar de Nuestra Senora, past snug coves, 9 good ports, broad rivers, and Cabo de Campana. As November closes, we scout inland fields, and a great dugout raise another cross at Puerto Santo on December 1st, and by December 3rd, explore a beautiful headland and wide river. Find great canoes beneath a thatched boat shed, meet a nearby village, and exchange small gifts in peace. Journal of the First Voyage of Columbus. Monday, the 12th of November. The Admiral left the port and river of Mares before dawn to visit the island called Babec, so much talked of by the Indians on board, where, according to their signs, the people gather the gold on the beach at night with candles and afterwards beat it into bars with hammers. To go thither, it was necessary to shape a course east by south. After having made 8 leagues along the coast, a river was sighted, and another 4 leagues brought them to another river, which appeared to be of great volume and larger than any they had yet seen. The Admiral did not wish to stop, nor to enter any of these rivers, for 2 reasons. The first, and principal one, being that wind and weather were favorable for going in search of the said island of Babec. The other, that if there was a populous and famous city near the sea, it would be visible, while to go up the rivers small vessels are necessary, which those of the expedition were not. Much time would thus be lost. Moreover, exploration of such rivers is a separate enterprise. That coast was peopled near the river to which the name of Rio del Sol was given. The Admiral says that on the previous Sunday, the 11th of November, it seemed good to take some persons from amongst those at Rio de Maris to bring to the sovereigns that they might learn our language, so as to be able to tell us what there is in their lands. Returning, they would be the mouthpieces of the Christians and would adopt our customs and the things of the faith. I saw and knew, says the Admiral, that these people are without any religion, not idolaters, but very gentle, not knowing what is evil, nor the sins of murder and theft, being without arms, and so timid that 100 would fly before one Spaniard, although they joke with them. They, however, believe and know that there is a God in heaven and say that we have come from heaven. At any prayer that we say, they repeat and make the sign of the cross. Thus, your highnesses should resolve to make them Christians, for I believe that, if the work was begun, in a little time a multitude of nations would be converted to our faith, with the acquisition of great lordships, peoples, and riches for Spain. Without doubt, there is in these lands a vast quantity of gold, and the Indians I have on board do not speak without reason when they say that in these islands there are places where they dig out gold and wear it on their necks, ears, arms, and legs, the rings being very large. There are also precious stones, pearls, and an infinity of spices. In this river of mares, whence we departed tonight, there is undoubtedly a great quantity of mastic, and much more could be raised because the trees may be planted and will yield abundantly. The leaf and fruit are like the mastic, but the tree and leaf are larger. As Pliny describes it, I have seen it on the island of Chios in the archipelago. I ordered many of these trees to be tapped to see if any of them would yield resin, but as it rained all the time I was in that river, I could not get any except a very little, which I am bringing to your highnesses. It may not be the right season for tapping, which is, I believe, when the trees come forth after winter and begin to flower. But when I was there, the fruit was nearly ripe. Here also there is a great quantity of cotton, and I believe it would have a good sale here without sending it to Spain, but to the great cities of the Grand Khan, which will be discovered without doubt, and many others ruled over by other lords who will be pleased to serve our highnesses, and whither will be brought other commodities of Spain and of the eastern lands, but these are to the west as regards us. There is also here a great yield of aloes, though this is not a commodity that will yield great profit. The mastic, however, is important, for it is only obtained from the said island of Chios, and I believe the harvest is worth 50,000 ducats, if I remember right. There is here, in the mouth of the river, the best port I have seen up to this time, wide, deep, and clear of rocks. It is an excellent site for a town and fort, for any ship could come close up to the walls. The land is high, with a temperate climate and very good water. Yesterday a canoe came alongside the ship with 6 youths in it. 5 came on board, and I ordered them to be detained. They are now here. I afterwards sent to a house on the western side of the river and seized 7 women, old and young, and 3 children. I did this because the men would behave better in Spain if they had women of their own land than without them. For on many occasions the men of Guinea have been brought to learn the language in Portugal, and afterwards when they returned, and it was expected that they would be useful in their land, owing to the good company they had enjoyed and the gifts they had received, they never appeared after arriving. Others may not act thus, but having women, they have the wish to perform what they are required to do. Besides, the women would teach our people their language, which is the same in all these islands, so that those who make voyages in their canoes are understood everywhere. On the other hand, there are 1,000 different languages in Guinea, and one native does not understand another. The same night, the husband of one of the women came alongside in a canoe, who was father of the 3 children, 1 boy and 2 girls. He asked me to let him come with them and besought me much. They are now all consoled at being with one who is a relation of them all. He is a man of about 45 years of age. All these are the words of the admiral. He also says that he had felt some cold, and that it would not be wise to continue discoveries in a northerly direction in the winter. On this Monday, until sunset, he steered a course east by south, making 18 leagues and reaching a cape, to which he gave the name of Cabo de Cuba. Tuesday, the 13th of November. This night the ships were on a bowline, as the sailors say, beating to windward without making any progress. At sunset they began to see an opening in the mountains where 2 very high peaks were visible. It appeared that here was the division between the land of Cuba and that of Bohio, and this was affirmed by signs by the Indians who were on board. As soon as the day had dawned, the admiral made sail toward the land, passing a point which appeared at night to be distant 2 leagues. He then entered a large gulf, 5 leagues to the south-southeast, and there remained 5 more, to arrive at the point where, between 2 great mountains, there appeared to be an opening, but it could not be made out whether it was an inlet of the sea, as he desired to go to the island called Babek, where, according to the information he had received, there was much gold. And as it bore east, and as no large town was in sight, the wind freshening more than ever, he resolved to put out to sea and work to the east with a northerly wind. The ship made 8 miles an hour, and from 10 in the forenoon, when that course was taken, until sunset, 56 miles, which is 14 leagues to the eastward from the Cabo de Cuba. The other land of Bohia was left to leeward, commencing from the cape of the said gulf. He discovered, according to his reckoning, 80 miles equal to 20 leagues, all that coast running east-southeast and west-northwest. Wednesday, 14th of November. All last night, the admiral was beating to windward. He said that it would be unreasonable to navigate among those islands during the night until they had been explored, for the Indians said yesterday that it would take 3 days to go from Rio de Mares to the island of Babeque, by which should be understood days' journeys in their canoes, equal to about 7 leagues. The wind fell, and, the course being east, she could not lay her course nearer than southeast, and owing to other mischances, he was detained until the morning. At sunrise, he determined to go in search of a port, because the wind had shifted from north to northeast, and if a port could not be found, it would be necessary to go back to the ports in the island of Cuba, whence they came. The admiral approached the shore, having gone over 28 miles east-southeast that night. He steered south, miles to the land, where he saw many islets and openings. As the wind was high and the sea rough, he did not dare to risk an attempt to enter, but ran along the coast west-northwest, looking out for a port, and saw many, but none very clear, of rocks. After having proceeded for 64 miles, he found a very deep opening, a quarter of a mile wide, with a good port and river. He ran in with her head south-southwest, afterwards south to southeast. The port was spacious and very deep, and he saw so many islands that he could not count them all, with very high land covered with trees of many kinds, and an infinite number of palms. He was much astonished to see so many lofty islands, and assured the sovereigns that the mountains and isles he had seen since yesterday seemed to him to be second to none in the world, so high and clear of clouds and snow, with the sea at their bases so deep. He believes that these islands are those innumerable ones that are depicted on the maps of the world in the Far East. He believed that they yielded very great riches in precious stones and spices, and that they extend much further to the south, widening out in all directions. He gave the name of La Mar de Nuestra Señora, and to the haven, which is near the mouth of the entrance to these islands, Puerto del Príncipe. He did not enter it, but examined it from outside, until another time, on Saturday of the next week, as will there appear. He speaks highly of the fertility, beauty, and height of the islands which he found in this gulf, and he tells the sovereigns not to wonder at his praise of them, for that he has not told them the 100th part. Some of them seem to reach to heaven, running up into peaks like diamonds. Others, rising to a great height, have a flat top like a table. At their bases, the sea is of a great depth, with enough water for a very large carrack. All are covered with foliage and without rocks. Thursday, 15th of November. The admiral went to examine these islands in the ship's boats, and speaks marvels of them, how he found mastic and aloes without end. Some of them were cultivated with the roots of which the Indians make bread, and he found that fires had been lighted in several places. He saw no fresh water. There were some natives, but they fled. In all parts of the sea where the vessels were navigated, he found a depth of 15 or 16 fathoms, and all basa, by which he means that the ground is sand and not rocks, a thing much desired by sailors, for the rocks cut their anchor cables. Friday, 16th of November. As in all parts, whether islands or mainlands that he visited, the admiral always left a cross, so on this occasion he went in a boat to the entrance of these havens, and found 2 very large trees on a point of land, one longer than the other. One being placed over the other made a cross, and he said that a carpenter could not have made it better. He ordered a very large and high cross to be made out of these timbers, He found canes on the beach and did not know where they had grown, but thought they must have been brought down by some river and washed up on the beach, in which opinion he had reason. He went to a creek on the southeast side of the entrance to the port. Here, under a height of rock and stone like a cape, there was depth enough for the largest carrack in the world close inshore, and there was a corner where 6 ships might lie without anchors as in a room. It seemed to the admiral that a fortress might be built here at small cost, if at any time any famous trade should arise in that sea of islands. Returning to the ship, he found that the Indians who were on board had fished up very large shells found in those seas. He made the people examine them to see if there was mother of pearl, which is in the shells where pearls grow. They found a great deal, but no pearls, and their absence was attributed to its not being the season, which is May and June. The sailors found an animal which seemed to be a tasso, or taxo. They also fished with nets, and, among many others, caught a fish which was exactly like a pig, not like a tunny, but all covered with a very hard shell, without a soft place except the tail and the eyes, and a hole underneath to discharge its superfluities. It was ordered to be salted, to bring home for the sovereigns to see. Saturday, 17th of November. The admiral got into the boat and went to visit the islands he had not yet seen to the southwest. He saw many more very fertile and pleasant islands, with a great depth between them. Some of them had springs of fresh water, and he believed that the water of those streams came from some sources at the summits of the mountains. He went on and found a beach bordering on very sweet water, which was very cold. There was a beautiful meadow, and many very tall palms. They found a large nut of the kind belonging to India, great rats, and enormous crabs. He saw many birds, and there was a strong smell of musk, which made him think it must be there. This day, the 2 eldest of the 6 youths brought from the Rio de Mares, who were on board the Caravel Niña, made their escape. Sunday, the 18th of November. The admiral again went away with the boats, accompanied by many of the sailors, to set up the cross which he had ordered to be made out of the 2 large trees at the entrance to the Puerto del Príncipe, on a fair site cleared of trees, whence there was an extensive and very beautiful view. He says that there is a greater rise and fall of the sea there than in any other port he has seen, and that this is no marvel, considering the numerous islands. The tide is the reverse of ours, because here, when the moon is south-southwest, it is low water in the port. He did not get underway because it was Sunday. Monday, 19th of November. The admiral got underway before sunrise in a calm. In the afternoon there was some wind from the east, and he shaped a north-northeast course. At sunset, the Puerto del Príncipe bore south-southwest 7 leagues. He saw the island of Babec bearing due east about 60 miles. He steered northeast all that night, making 60 miles, and up to 10 o'clock of Tuesday, another dozen, altogether 18 leagues northeast by west. Tuesday, the 20th of November. They left Babec, or the islands of Babec, to the east-southeast, the wind being contrary, and seeing that no progress was being made and the sea was getting rough, the admiral determined to return to the Puerto del Príncipe, whence he had started, which was 25 leagues distant. He did not wish to go to the island he had called Isabella, which was 12 leagues off, and where he might have anchored that night for 2 reasons. One was that he had seen 2 islands to the south which he wished to explore. The other, because the Indians he brought with him, whom he had taken at the island of Guanahani, which he named San Salvador, 8 leagues from Isabella, might get away, and he said that he wanted them to take to Spain. They thought that when the admiral had found gold, he would let them return to their homes. He came near the Puerto del Príncipe, but could not reach it because it was night, and because the current drifted them to the northwest. He turned her head to northeast with a light wind. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the wind changed and a course was shaped east-northeast, the wind being south-southwest, and changing at dawn to south and southeast. At sunset, Puerto del Príncipe bore nearly southwest by west 48 miles, which are 12 leagues. Wednesday, 21st of November. At sunrise, the admiral steered east with a southerly wind, but made little progress owing to a contrary sea. At vespers, he had gone 24 miles. Afterwards, the wind changed to east, and he steered south by east, at sunset having gone 12 miles. Here he found himself 42 degrees north of the equinoctial line, as in the port of Maries, but he says that he kept the result from the quadrant in suspense until he reached the shore, that it might be adjusted, as it would seem that he thought this distance was too great, and he had reason, it not being possible, as these islands are only in degrees. To believe the quadrant was right, he was led by seeing the North Star as high as in Castile. Reinforcing this was the great heat which he says he found there. From this heat, which the admiral says he endured there, he argued that in these Indies and where he was going, there must be much gold. This day, Martin Alonso Pinzon parted company with the Caravel Pinta in disobedience to and against the wish of the admiral, and out of avarice, thinking that an Indian who had been put on board his caravel could show him where there was much gold. So he parted company, not owing to bad weather, but because he chose. Here the admiral says, "He had done and said many other things to me." Thursday, 22nd of November. On Wednesday night, the admiral steered south-southeast with the wind east, but it was nearly calm. At 3, it began to blow from north-northeast, and he continued to steer south to see the land he had seen in that quarter. When the sun rose, he was as far off as the day before, owing to adverse currents, the land being 40 miles off. This night, Martin Alonso shaped a course to the east, to go to the island of Babec, where the Indians say there is much gold. He did this in sight of the admiral, from whom he was distant 16 miles. The admiral stood towards the land all night. He shortened sail and showed a lantern, because Pinzon would thus have an opportunity of joining him, the night being very clear and the wind fair to come, if he had wished to do so. Friday, the 23rd of November. The admiral stood towards the land all day, always steering south with little wind, but the current would never let them reach it, being as far off at sunset as in the morning. The wind was east-northeast, and they could shape a southerly course, but there was little of it. Beyond this cape there stretched out another land or cape, also trending east, which the Indians on board called Bohio. They said that it was very large, and that there were people in it who had one eye in their foreheads, and others who were cannibals, and of whom they were much afraid. When they saw that this course was taken, they said that they could not talk to these people, because they would be eaten, and that they were very well armed. The admiral says that he well believes that there were such people, and that if they are armed, they must have some ability. He thought that they may have captured some of the Indians, and because they did not return to their homes, the others believed that they had been eaten. They thought the same of the Christians and of the admiral when some of them first saw the strangers. Saturday, the 24th of November. They navigated all night, and at 3 they reached the level island at the very same point they had come to the week before, when they started for the island of Babec. At first the admiral did not dare to approach the shore, because it seemed that there would be a great surf in that mountain-girded bay. Finally, he reached the Sea of Nuestra Senora, where there are many islands, and entered a port near the mouth of the opening to the islands. He says that if he had known of this port before, he need not have occupied himself in exploring the islands, and it would not have been necessary to go back. He, however, considered that the time was well spent in examining the islands. On nearing the land, he sent in the boat to sound, finding a good sandy bottom in 6 to 20 fathoms. He entered the haven, pointing the ship's head southwest and then west, the flat island bearing north. This, with another island near it, forms a harbor which would hold all the ships of Spain safe from all winds. This entrance on the southwest side is passed by steering south-southwest, the outlet being to the west very deep and wide. Thus a vessel can pass amidst these islands, and he who approaches from the north, with a knowledge of them, can pass along the coast. These islands are at the foot of a great mountain chain running east and west, which is longer and higher than any others on this coast, where there are many. A reef of rocks outside runs parallel with the said mountains, like a bench extending to the entrance. On the side of the flat island and also to the southeast, there is another small reef, but between them there is great width and depth. Within the port, near the southeast side of the entrance, they saw a large and very fine river with more volume than any they had yet met with, and fresh water could be taken from it as far as the sea. At the entrance there is a bar, but within it is very deep, 19 fathoms. The banks are lined with palms and many other trees. Sunday, the 25th of November. Before sunrise, the admiral got into the boat and went to see a cape or point of land to the southeast of the flat island, about 1.5 leagues distant, because there appeared to be a good river there. Presently, near to the southeast side of the cape, at a distance of 2 crossbow shots, he saw a large stream of beautiful water falling from the mountains above, with a loud noise. He went to it and saw some stones shining in its bed like gold. He remembered that in the river Tagus, near its junction with the sea, there was gold. So it seemed to him that this should contain gold, and he ordered some of these stones to be collected, to be brought to the sovereigns. Just then the sailor boys called out that they had found large pines. The admiral looked up the hill and saw that they were so wonderfully large that he could not exaggerate their height and straightness, like stout yet fine spindles. He perceived that here there was material for great store of planks and masts for the largest ships in Spain. He saw oaks and arbutus trees with a good river, and the means of making water power. The climate was temperate, owing to the height of the mountains. On the beach he saw many other stones of the color of iron, and others that some said were like silver ore, all brought down by the river. Here he obtained a new mast and yard for the mizzen of the Caravel Niña. He came to the mouth of the river and entered a creek which was deep and wide at the foot of that southeast part of the cape, which would accommodate 100 ships without any anchor or hawsers. Eyes never beheld a better harbor. The mountains are very high, whence descend many limpid streams, and all the hills are covered with pines, and an infinity of diverse and beautiful trees. 2 or 3 other rivers were not visited. The admiral described all this in much detail to the sovereigns, and declared that he had derived unspeakable joy and pleasure at seeing it, more especially the pines, because they enable as many ships as is desired to be built here, bringing out the rigging, but finding here abundant supplies of wood and provisions. He affirms that he has not enumerated 100th part of what there is here, and that it pleased our Lord always to show him one thing better than another, as well on the ground and among the trees, herbs, fruits, and flowers, as in the people, and always something different in each place. It had been the same as regards the havens and the waters. Finally, he says that if it caused him who saw it so much wonder, how much more will it affect those who hear about it? Yet no one can believe until he sees it. Monday, the 26th of November. At sunrise, the admiral weighed the anchors in the haven of Santa Catalina, where he was behind the flat island, and steered along the coast in the direction of Cabo del Pico, which was southeast. He reached the cape late because the wind failed, and then saw another cape, southeast by east 60 miles, which, when 20 miles off, was named Cabo de Campana, but it could not be reached that day. They made good 32 miles during the day, which is 8 leagues. During this time, the admiral noted 9 remarkable ports, which all the sailors thought wonderfully good, and 5 large rivers, for they sailed close along the land so as to see everything. All along the coast there are very high and beautiful mountains, not arid or rocky, but all accessible and very lovely. The valleys, like the mountains, were full of tall and fine trees, so that it was a glory to look upon them, and there seemed to be many pines. Also, beyond the said Cabo de Pico to the southeast, there are 2 islets, each about 2 leagues round, and inside them 3 excellent havens and 2 large rivers. Along the whole coast, no inhabited places were visible from the sea. There may have been some, and there were indications of them, for when the men landed, they found signs of people and numerous remains of fires. The admiral conjectured that the land he saw today southeast of the Cabo de Campana was the island called by the Indians Bohio. It looked as if this cape was separated from the mainland. The admiral says that all the people he has hitherto met with have very great fear of those of Canaba or Canama. They affirm that they live in the island of Bohio, which must be very large, according to all accounts. The admiral understood that those of Canaba come to take people from their homes, they being very cowardly and without knowledge of arms. For this use, it appears that these Indians do not settle on the sea coast owing to being near the land of Canaba. When the natives who were on board saw a course shaped for that land, they feared to speak, thinking they were going to be eaten, nor could they rid themselves of their fear. They declared that the Canabas had only one eye and dogs' faces. The admiral thought they lied and was inclined to believe that it was people from the dominions of the Grand Khan who took them into captivity. Tuesday, the 27th of November. Yesterday at sunset they arrived near a cape named Campana by the admiral, and as the sky was clear and the wind light, he did not wish to run in close to the land and anchor, although he had 5 or 6 singularly good havens under his lee. The admiral was attracted on the one hand by the longing and delight he felt to gaze upon the beauty and freshness of those lands, and on the other by a desire to complete the work he had undertaken. For these reasons he remained close-hauled, and stood off and on during the night. But as the currents had set him more than 5 or 6 leagues to the southeast, beyond where he had been at nightfall, passing the land of Campana, he came in sight of a great opening beyond that cape, which seemed to divide one land from another, leaving an island between them. He decided to go back with the wind southeast, steering to the point where the opening had appeared, where he found that it was only a large bay, and at the end of it, on the southeast side, there was a point of land on which was a high and square-cut hill which had looked like an island. A breeze sprang up from the north, and the admiral continued on a southeast course to explore the coast and discover all that was there. Presently he saw at the foot of the Cabo de Campana a wonderfully good port and a large river, and a quarter of a league on another river, and a third and a fourth to a seventh at similar distances, from the furthest one to Cabo de Campana being 20 miles southeast. Most of these rivers have wide and deep mouths, with excellent havens for large ships, without sandbanks or sunken rocks. Proceeding onwards from the last of these rivers, on a southeast course, they came to the largest inhabited place they had yet seen, and a vast concourse of people came down to the beach with loud shouts, all naked, with their darts in their hands. The admiral desired to have speech with them, so he furled sails and anchored. The boats of the ship and the caravel were sent on shore, with orders to do no harm whatever to the Indians, but to give them presents. The Indians made as if they would resist the landing, but seeing that the boats of the Spaniards continued to advance without fear, they retired from the beach. Thinking that they would not be terrified if only 2 or 3 landed, 3 Christians were put on shore, who told them not to be afraid in their own language, for they had been able to learn a little from the natives who were on board, but all ran away, neither great nor small remaining. The Christians went to the houses, which were of straw, and built like the others they had seen, but found no one in any of them. They returned to the ships and made sail at noon in the direction of a fine cape to the eastward, about 8 leagues distant. Having gone about half a league, the admiral saw on the south side of the same bay a very remarkable harbor, and to the southeast some wonderfully beautiful country, like a valley among the mountains, whence much smoke arose, indicating a large population with signs of much cultivation. So he resolved to stop at this port and see if he could have any speech or intercourse with the inhabitants. It was so that if the admiral had praised the other havens, he must praise this still more for its lands, climate, and people. He tells marvels of the beauty of the country and of the trees, there being palms and pine trees, and also of the great valley, which is not flat but diversified by hill and dale, the most lovely scene in the world. Many streams flow from it, which fall from the mountains. As soon as the ship was at anchor, the admiral jumped into the boat to get soundings in the port, which is the shape of a hammer. When he was facing the entrance, he found the mouth of a river on the south side of sufficient width for a galley to enter it, but so concealed that it is not visible until close to. Entering it for the length of the boat, there was a depth of from 5 to 8 fathoms. In passing up it, the freshness and beauty of the trees, the clearness of the water, and the birds made it all so delightful that he wished never to leave them. He said to the men who were with him that to give a true relation to the sovereigns of the things they had seen, 1,000 tongues would not suffice, nor his hand to write it, for that it was like a scene of enchantment. He desired that many other prudent and credible witnesses might see it, and he was sure that they would be as unable to exaggerate the scene as he was. The admiral also says, how great the benefit that is to be derived from this country would be, I cannot say. It is certain that where there are such lands, there must be an infinite number of things that would be profitable. But I did not remain long in one port, because I wished to see as much of the country as possible, in order to make a report upon it to your highnesses. And besides, I do not know the language, and these people neither understand me nor any other in my company, while the Indians I have on board often misunderstand. Moreover, I have not been able to see much of the natives, because they often take to flight. But now, if our Lord pleases, I will see as much as possible, and will proceed by little and little, learning and comprehending, and I will make some of my followers learn the language. For I have perceived that there is only one language up to this point. After they understand the advantages, I shall labor to make all these people Christians. They will become so readily, because they have no religion nor idolatry, and your highnesses will send orders to build a city and fortress, and to convert the people. I assure your highnesses that it does not appear to me that there can be a more fertile country, nor a better climate under the sun, with abundant supplies of water. This is not like the rivers of Guinea, which are all pestilential. I thank our Lord that up to this time there has not been a person of my company who has had so much as a headache, or been in bed from illness, except an old man who has suffered from the stone all his life, and he was well again in 2 days. I speak of all 3 vessels. If it will please God that your highnesses should send learned men out here, they will see the truth of all I have said. I have related already how good a place Rio de Mares would be for a town and fortress, and this is perfectly true. But it bears no comparison with this place, nor with the Mar de Nuestra Senora. For here there must be a large population and very valuable productions, which I hope to discover before I return to Castile. I say that if Christendom will find profit among these people, how much more will Spain, to whom the whole country should be subject? Your highnesses ought not to consent that any stranger should trade here or put his foot in the country except Catholic Christians, for this was the beginning and end of the undertaking, namely, the increase and glory of the Christian religion, and that no one should come to these parts who was not a good Christian. All the above are the admiral's words. He ascended the river for some distance, examined some branches of it, and, returning to the mouth, he found some pleasant groves of trees, like a delightful orchard. Here he came upon a boat or canoa, dug out of one tree as big as a fusta of 12 benches, fastened under a boathouse or bower made of wood, and thatched with palm leaves, so that it could be neither injured by sun nor by the water. He says that here would be the proper site for a town and fort, by reason of the good port, good water, good land, and abundance of fuel. Wednesday, 28th of November. The admiral remained during this day in consequence of the rain and thick weather, though he might have run along the coast, the wind being southwest, but he did not weigh because he was unacquainted with the coast beyond, and did not know what danger there might be for the vessels. The sailors of the 2 vessels went on shore to wash their clothes, and some of them walked inland for a short distance. They found indications of a large population, but the houses were all empty, everyone having fled. They returned by the banks of another river, larger than that which they knew of at the port. Thursday, 29th of November. The rain and thick weather continuing, the admiral did not get underway. Some of the Christians went to another village to the northwest, but found no one, and nothing in the houses. On the road they met an old man who could not run away, and caught him. They told him they did not wish to do him any harm, gave him a few presents, and let him go. The admiral would have liked to have had speech with him, for he was exceedingly satisfied with the delights of that land, and wished that a settlement might be formed there, judging that it must support a large population. In one house they found a cake of wax, which was taken to the sovereigns, the admiral saying that where there was wax, there were also 1,000 other good things. The sailors also found, in one house, the head of a man in a basket, covered with another basket, and fastened to a post of the house. They found the same things in another village. The admiral believed that they must be the heads of some founder or principal ancestor of a lineage, for the houses are built to contain a great number of people in each, and these should be relations and descendants of a common ancestor. Friday, 30th of November. They could not get underway today because the wind was east and dead against them. The admiral sent 8 men well armed, accompanied by 2 of the Indians he had on board, to examine the villages inland and get speech with the people. They came to many houses, but found no one and nothing, all having fled. They saw 4 youths who were digging in their fields, but as soon as they saw the Christians, they ran away and could not be overtaken. They marched a long distance and saw many villages and a most fertile land with much cultivation and many streams of water. Near one river, they saw a canoe dug out of a single tree, 95 palmos long, and capable of carrying 150 persons. Saturday, 1st of December. They did not depart because there was still a foul wind with much rain. The admiral set up a cross at the entrance of this port, which he called Puerto Santo, on some bare rocks. The point is, that which is on the southeast side of the entrance. But he who has to enter should make more over to the northwest. For at the foot of both, near the rock, there are 12 fathoms, and a very clean bottom. At the entrance of the port, toward the southeast point, there is a reef of rocks above water, sufficiently far from the shore to enable one to pass between if it is necessary, for both on the side of the rock and the shore there is a depth of 12 to 15 fathoms, and on entering, a ship's head should be turned southwest. Sunday, 2nd of December. The wind was still contrary, and they could not depart. Every night the wind blows on the land, but no vessel need be alarmed at all the gales in the world, for they cannot blow home by reason of a reef of rocks at the opening to the haven, etc. A sailor boy found at the mouth of the river some stones which looked as if they contained gold, so they were taken to be shown to the sovereigns. The admiral says that there are great rivers at the distance of a Lombard shot. Monday, 3rd of December. By reason of the continuance of an easterly wind, the admiral did not leave this port. He arranged to visit a very beautiful headland a quarter of a league to the southeast of the anchorage. He went with the boats and some armed men. At the foot of the cape there was the mouth of a fair river, and on entering it they found the width to be 100 paces, with a depth of 1 fathom. Inside they found 12, 5, 4, and 2 fathoms, so that it would hold all the ships there are in Spain. Leaving the river, they came to a cove in which were 5 very large canoes, so well constructed that it was a pleasure to look at them. They were under spreading trees, and a path led from them to a very well-built boathouse, so thatched that neither sun nor rain could do any harm. Within it, there was another canoe made out of a single tree like the others, like a fusta with 17 benches. It was a pleasant sight to look upon such goodly work. The admiral ascended a mountain and afterwards found the country level, and cultivated with many things of that land, including such calabashes as it was a glory to look upon them. In the middle there was a large village, and they came upon the people suddenly, but as soon as they were seen, men and women took to flight. The Indian from on board, who was with the admiral, cried out to them that they need not be afraid, as the strangers were good people. The admiral made him give them bells, copper ornaments, and glass beads, green and yellow, with which they were well content. He saw that they had no gold nor any other precious thing, and that it would suffice to leave them in peace. The whole district was well peopled, the rest having fled from fear. The admiral assures the sovereigns that 10,000 of these men would run from 10, so cowardly and timid are they. No arms are carried by them except wands, on the point of which a short piece of wood is fixed, hardened by fire, and these they are very ready to exchange. Returning to where he had left the boats, he sent back some men up the hill because he fancied he had seen a large apiary. Before those he had sent could return, they were joined by many Indians, and they went to the boats where the admiral was waiting with all his people. One of the natives advanced into the river near the stern of the boat and made a long speech, which the admiral did not understand. At intervals, the other Indians raised their hands to heaven and shouted. The admiral thought he was assuring him that he was pleased at his arrival, but he saw the Indian who came from the ship change the color of his face and turn as yellow as wax, trembling much, and letting the admiral know by signs that he should leave the river, as they were going to kill him. He pointed to a crossbow, which one of the Spaniards had, and showed it to the Indians, and the admiral let it be understood that they would all be slain, because that crossbow carried far and killed people. He also took a sword and drew it out of the sheath, showing it to them, and saying the same, which, when they had heard, they all took to flight, while the Indian from the ship still trembled from cowardice, though he was a tall, strong man. The admiral did not want to leave the river, but pulled towards the place where the natives had assembled in great numbers, all painted, and as naked as when their mothers bore them. Some had tufts of feathers on their heads, and all had their bundles of darts. The admiral says, I came to them and gave them some mouthfuls of bread, asking for the darts, for which I gave in exchange copper ornaments, bells, and glass beads. This made them peaceable, so that they came to the boats again and gave us what they had. The sailors had killed a turtle, and the shell was in the boat in pieces. The sailor boys gave them some in exchange for a bundle of darts. These are like the other people we have seen, and with the same belief that we came from heaven. They are ready to give whatever thing they have in exchange for any trifle without saying it is little, and I believe they would do the same with gold and spices if they had any. I saw a fine house, not very large, and with 2 doors, as all the rest have. On entering, I saw a marvelous work, there being rooms made in a peculiar way, that I scarcely know how to describe it. Shells and other things were fastened to the ceiling. I thought it was a temple, and I called them and asked by signs whether prayers were offered up there. They said that they were not, and one of them climbed up and offered me all the things that were there, of which I took some.